Left side.
right there.
That's the wrong one.
Left side.
Bring it this way.
Yeah, the other left.
Push forward.
There you go.
It was on earlier. Okay, I'll go ahead and call.
Oh, no, I'm not that.
Oh, thank you. I'll go ahead and call the regular Swan-Sutter Council meeting to order on September 13th. Chief, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Tonight's roll call. Cease.
Yes.
Casagranda.
Here.
Baclan.
Present.
Demas.
Here.
McClure.
Here.
Osenga.
Here.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizen comments on any subject except those items scheduled for public hearing. And this evening, we don't have any public hearings.
Madam Mayor, we have one signed up, and that is Jackie Wild.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As many of you know, I have officially given my notice of resignation to the city manager. I have worked to serve my community in every way possible by showing that core values such as integrity, equality, and transparency should provide the foundation for every decision and policy no matter what. Integrity and accountability must be deeply ingrained in the culture of local government. This starts at the top. The City of Seward should focus on ethical values. All government agencies should teach its leaders, its supervisors to lead with those principles and at the center of everything they do. I ask that you, as city leaders, exercise fair, honest, independent judgment in your roles as decision makers and advisors. Make public disclosure of all personal interests you may have regarding any decision to be made in any process in which you serve or are requested to serve as an advisor or a decision maker. Strive to give the citizens, including those who lack formal organization or influence, full, clear, and accurate information on all city issues and an opportunity to have full, meaningful role in the development of code and this community. Do not misrepresent the facts or distort information for the purposes of achieving a desired outcome. Systematically and critically analyze ethical issues. An action does not have to be illegal to be unethical. I took an oath of office, and so has every department head, commissioner, council member, and mayor to the city. It states that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Alaska, and the laws and ordinances of all City of Seward. It's important for City Council and the citizens employed to remember that they represent this government. They need to uphold the integrity and the institution as a whole. I want to thank every city employee, citizen, commissioner, council member, and mayor that I've served under for the last 11 years. I'm extremely proud to say that I've worked beside and with some of the most amazing people that have accomplished great things. And to them, I say thank you. Your accomplishments have been noticed. I want to leave you all with this. Because we cannot know the character or motivations of those who manage our communities, and because we cannot know how much their personal obligations affect their decisions, we can judge them and we can hold them accountable only by their actions and their relationships as they appear on their face. In other words, government, code, ethics, and appearances are what matters the most. Motivations, feelings, and characters are irrelevant.
Thank you. Is anyone else signed in to speak, Madam Clerk?
No, ma'am.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
Is it citizen comment?
Yeah, it's citizen comments. If you haven't signed in, you still have 3 minutes. Name and inside, outside city limits, and
Okay.
address council.
Arnie Hatch, inside city limits, 1133 Cliffview Place. I just wanted to speak in favor of one of the resolutions you have before you tonight, number 8. It's 102, the sale of property to Gashmute. As a beneficiary of North Star Health Clinic and utilizing it. Occasionally, I fully support their plans and hope the council is comfortable in approving that resolution tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Go ahead. Oh, hi. To the dais, please. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Susie Towsley, Inside City Limits. I too support the resolution that would authorize the sale of the property that used to be the Air Force Rec Camp to Chugachmute. My children are beneficiaries, and it would help the community in a lot of ways, not just for people that are beneficiaries of Native Health Services, that we would create jobs and expand the services that are available for folks here so that we don't have to all travel to Anchorage to get health care. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the time that you spend doing this. I know it's a thankless job sometimes. You're very appreciated. And also to point out again that growth is sometimes hard, but I feel like on the other side of those hard things are often the really good things. And I've been hearing about and personally experiencing a more positive, responsive nature from City Hall towards the residents and City Council towards the residents, most of City Council. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for keeping City Hall a professional place where people can expect to be heard and responded to in a professional manner. And thank you again.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, here we see none. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda and consent agenda, and I'm looking for a motion and a second.
I move for the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda.
I second it.
And then now we're looking for changes or amendments. I'll kick it off if I might. I wanted to take resolution 2021-100 off the consent, 2021-101 off the consent, 2021-104 off the consent. And if there's no, and then actually it's, if there's no objections, I'd like to put B4 on the consent agenda. It just takes one objection though, but.
You state the title.
Yeah, so it's review the joint letter concerning the Port of Alaska from the Alaska Mayors and Chambers of Commerce and authorize the mayor to sign on behalf of the city of Seward. Do you have an objection?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay.
Forgot.
Okay. Are there any other changes? Yes, sir?
I'd like to go ahead and pull resolution 2021-102 from consent.
Thank you. Councilmember Casagrande, you have an amendment? Okay. Any other changes or amendments to the agenda? Madam Clerk, did you get all those?
I did.
Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. I don't know if you want to restate.
I will when I read it. into
Okay,
the record.
sounds good.
Voting on tonight's agenda and consent agenda as amended. Bosenga,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Buckhorn,
Yes.
Casagrande,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda are approved. Approved on tonight's consent agenda, Resolution 2021-095, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Tri-Delta Incorporated for city calendar advertising in the Seward Journal at a rate of $273 per week, beginning January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024. Resolution 2021-096, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract agreement between the City of Seward, Alaska and the State of Alaska Department of Administration, Division of Motor Vehicles, to operate the City of Seward Division of Motor Vehicles office. Resolution 2021-097, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Alaska Department of Public Safety to provide basic clerical services, parking, and access to the Data Master instrument for the Alaska State Troopers. Resolution 2021-098, approving the change order to the purchase order for portable toilet services to account for additional servicing during peak season in the amount of $30,905 and appropriating funds. Resolution 2021-099, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with McKinley Fence Company in the amount of $98,489 to tear down the existing security fence around the Fort Raymond substation and replace it with a stronger and taller security fence to improve public safety and security. Resolution 2021-103, authorizing the city manager to purchase distribution system materials, poles, lines, pole top assemblies, support assemblies, insulators, and other hardware in an amount not to exceed $110,196, including a 15% contingency for the relocation of poles and power lines to accommodate an Alaska Department of Transportation shoulder widening project on the Seward Highway near Moose Pass, and appropriating funds. And also approved are the August 23rd, 2021 City Council regular meeting minutes and the joint letter concerning the Port of Alaska from the Alaska Mayors and Chambers of Commerce.
What about
Thank you.
105?
105 is not a consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Next on the agenda is special orders, presentations, and reports. We have some very auspicious proclamations and awards. And if you don't mind, I'll squeeze past here. The first person I will ask to come up is Erin Lemus, but I don't see her.
She was here earlier and then had to leave. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I told her I would get it to her.
I actually want to just definitely point out that Erin Lemus has served faithfully on the Port and Commerce Advisory Board from October 2018 to July 2021, so we very much appreciate her service on the board. Now, Laura Schneider. So this is from the City of Seward, presented to Laura Schneider for excellent leadership and dedicated service on the Port and Commerce Advisory Board, serving the people of Seward from August 2017 to August 2021. And I'll also say that not only did you serve on the board, but you did a fantastic job as the chair for many years. So we very much appreciate your service. Thank you so much.
I'd just like to thank the mayor and the council and city administration. I know I have not gotten to work with you, but I've gotten to work with so many great people in this capacity. It has truly been a privilege to serve. But I will say that it also is a lot of work. So thank you to all of those who are here and to those who serve on the boards and commissions. To the Port and Commerce Advisory Board, Linda is here. I've been overwhelmed by the relationships that I've made and the great work that we've gotten to do together. I so appreciate it. And I'll just say that this was not a decision that I came to lightly. You get emotional? But this has been a really tough year for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And I've been talking to a lot of people about burnout recently. And I just want to remind everyone, be kind to each other, but also be kind to yourself. I needed to step away to spend time on other things in my life, and I'm really going to miss you all. And I hope to be back in some capacity in the future. So thank you so much.
Well, I'm just going to add that it's a testament to you, because I just know, seeing you on the Port and Commerce Advisory Board, that whatever you do it with your whole heart. So I know that that's how you operate in your life. So I very much appreciate that and your service. I don't know if Myla Lorchmark is here, but I'm going to brag on one of our teachers and read this proclamation and make sure she gets it, because I know that she is actually the Terry kids. She's had all 6 of the Terry kids to various degrees, and they all love her. I'm not sure the same could be said reverse, but whereas the History Teacher of the Year Award began in 2004, and it highlights the critical importance of historic education by honoring exceptional American history teachers from the elementary school through high school. Whereas Maya Lojmark was nominated for the 2021 Alaska History Teacher of the Year Award, and Whereas on August 19th, Mila Lorgemark was named the recipient of the 2021 Alaska History Teacher of the Year, and whereas in 2021 to 2022 school year began Mrs. Lorgemark's 17th year of teaching in the Kenai Peninsula Borough. Whereas her love of history was closely tied to her experiences living and traveling overseas and visiting Germany with her family in 1989, and whereas during the 2017-2018 school year, Mrs. Lorgemark combined her love of teaching and her love of history when she swapped places with a teacher in Australia for a teacher exchange program, and her kids came back with accents, so that was the funnest thing. And whereas Mrs. Lorgemark uses her life experiences to demonstrate the importance of making connections between the content of her class and the world outside of her classroom to her students. Now therefore I, Christy Terry, Mayor of the City of Seward, do hereby congratulate Mila Lorgemark on her achievement as the 2021 Alaska History Teacher of the Year. So we love all our teachers, but it's great when they get the recognition that they deserve. So next is remembering September 9/11, 2001, and I think, Claire, would you like to join me? I think you're on deck for the next three. So we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And you know, here we get to the serious subjects. So a day to remember. The unprovoked attacks of September 11, 2001 upon America by foreign terrorists thrust the United States and other countries into a war it never envisioned, militarily or diplomatically. Whereas the challenges facing all the civilized people of the world as they relate to the war on terrorism will not end until those with radical ideas that are contrary to peaceful ideas of the free world are quieted. Whereas America is fully committed to ensuring that our freedoms remain unfettered and sovereign for all generations now and forever. Whereas world opinion needs to be remain focused on the elimination of those inhumane acts perpetrated across the globe. Whereas one day to accomplish this, to never forget that those innocent victims did not die in vain. And whereas America can fight back by reminding the world that the deaths of these people will always be remembered and they will be forever loved. And whereas service members and first responders from Seward and the state are honored and supported when they are called to serve and defeat inhuman acts of terrorism. And whereas a noble and appropriate way to accomplish this through the annual celebration of their life and their service. And whereas the commemoration should be conducted each September 11th throughout the land to include the promotion of global peace and goodwill, the demonstration of America's resolve and perseverance to win the war on terrorism, the advancement of responsible citizenship, the encouragement of patriotism and the love of country, and the poignant remembrance of those innocent victims who died September 11th as heroes, one and all. Now therefore I, Christy Terry, Mayor of the City of Seward, do hereby issue this proclamation in remembrance of those who tragically lost their lives on September 11th, 2001, and as a token of appreciation for the brave men and women who serve and protect our country today. Dated this 13th day of September, 2021. And I don't know if you have a couple of comments you'd like to make regarding this one.
I certainly can. Yeah, the 9/11 really is a first responders. The day itself is a first responders for police, fire, EMS, and the rest. It's a particularly memorable for me because of one being a New Yorker, and half of my nephew's wedding party was killed in the 9/11 because he worked for Deutsche Bank and Morgan Stanley. Some of those were there. So that's important, but what's really important for this is the fact that our military members have served for 20 years, and we pulled out, which reasonably so, we probably should pull out and all the rest of that stuff, but not to let their service go in vain because we've left, and we may have a mess that we still have to clean up, but those folks really did serve, and served well. And the first responders, certainly on 9/11, paid the ultimate price on so many of them. So, thank you.
Sorry. The next proclamation is POWMIA Recognition Day proclamation. I'm sorry. Whereas throughout American history, members of America's armed forces have made uncommon sacrifices as prisoners of war, serving our country under conditions of extreme hardship while remaining steadfast, even when their treatment violated fundamental standards of morality and international codes of conduct. And whereas 1,584 Americans are still missing from the Vietnam War, 7,555 unaccounted from the Korean War, 126 from the Cold War, and over 403,000 from World War II, and thousands are recorded as unrecoverable as deep-sea losses. And whereas American-held POWs and Americans missing in action have earned our respect for their courage and devotion to the United States, and whereas as we honor our POWs who, in the very act of serving our nation, relinquish their freedom to protect their liberties we enjoy, whereas we also honor these MIAs and should not forget the pain and suffering of families and friends of those missing, and countless other Americans who still deal with a lack of certainty regarding their fates. And whereas the United States Congress established the third Friday in the month of September as America's annual national POW MIA Recognition Day, whereas the City of Seward commends, supports, and shares our nation's commitment to account as fully as possible for Americans still missing and unaccounted for from our nation's past wars and conflicts, and calls upon our nation's leaders to help account for and return our missing and unaccounted for personnel to the United States. Now therefore I, Christy Terry, Mayor of the City of Seward, do hereby proclaim September 17th as POW MIA Recognition Day, and call upon all citizens to join with Americans across the nation in honoring all present and former American POWs and MIAs and their families.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is also an important one where, as we go through our daily lives, there's so many families out there that still don't have any answers. And Vietnam is one of the wars that, just like a lot of the other ones, that it goes away and it's in the distance, but people seem to forget as we move on with their lives. And fortunately, the government, the federal government, has an office that continues to monitor and try to get accountability for everybody who's down. So it's important to keep this in people's minds. Thank you.
And then the last one is American Legion Day proclamation. And before I read this, I just want to thank you, Claire, and your husband for all the work that you do with the American Legion. It's just such an important part to our town. When we have military folks come here, you're always welcoming and making sure that they get served.
And you're really helpful for letting us know about it.
So whereas the American Legion was chartered by Congress on September 16, 1919 as a wartime veterans organization based on 4 pillars: Veterans Affairs and Rehabilitation, National Security, Americanism, and Children and Youth. And whereas over the years the American Legion has become a preeminent community service organization which now numbers more than 2 million members, men and women, in nearly 13,000 American Legion posts worldwide, working a variety of programs that benefit our nation's veterans, service members, families, and the youth of America. And whereas the Alaska American Legion has grown to be the largest and most active major veterans organization and advocate for veterans' rights in the state of Alaska. And whereas the Alaska American Legion's current membership is over 8,000, with 35 chartered posts, including Legionnaires, auxiliary members, and Sons of the Legion. Whereas the American Legion continues to serve Alaska veterans, members of the armed forces, and their families through hospital visits, financial assistance, and Boys and Girls State programs, and continues to fight for the rights of veterans in the military through active legislation at the state and national level. And whereas the members of the American Legion Post 5 in Seward are dedicated to upholding the ideals of freedom and democracy since December 31st, 1919. And whereas the 2001 observance of American Legion Day provides an opportunity to recognize Legionnaires in our community for their many contributions to our city of Seward. Now therefore I, Christy Terry, Mayor of the City of Seward, Alaska, do hereby proclaim September 16th, 2021 as the American Legion Day. And for this one, we are definitely going to clap.
As you mentioned, like the American Legion Seward is old as a national organization, and that's why our name, Post 5, we're one of the first 5, obviously. There are 35 posts in the state, and they come and go as far as, availability, in different places, in the far-flung places, they don't always make it. But the American Legion across the board is dedicated to supporting our veterans and our active duty military in order to make sure that, they get the benefits that they're entitled to, whether they're active duty or those of us who have retired from the military, that it doesn't go by the wayside. And because the military and the veterans are here for everybody, and that's a huge resource to help others because they're always continuing to serve. And I want to thank the Mayor Terry and the council for putting together the proclamations for us, and we'll have these up at the post.
Oh, great, wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is the Borough Assembly report, and I did see our borough representative here. Hello. Hi.
Here's your disc.
Welcome.
Hi. Welcome, council. I got my son here with me today. He likes to come to these things, so I'm getting him into it. He wants to go to Assembly Board meeting, but we never get done till 11 o'clock at night. That's kind of late. But I had a couple things. First and foremost, I want to say that Clay Pedersen won his hat trick, 3rd championship in a row for the dirt track for the state of Alaska at the age of 18 years old. He's a pit crew member for Clay, and he's already won the race cars. But Cole, his brother, placed really high since he started racing mid-season, and Nick Lester started and was doing real good until he got knocked out of his last race on Saturday. But those guys are a Seward force. There's a lot of people there from Seward springing them on, and of course Jenna's got the great videos all the time on the Facebook. So, second, the Assembly is on track to give an additional $2 million to the school district because we got that $11 million thing from the feds, which would bring them up to the promised $50 million that we told them we were going to do. We were counting on this money first to make sure we had it. They settled for 48, but they wanted 50. Well, they're going to get their 50 pretty soon here. And third, y'all heard about the mandated vaccination resolution and the whole 9 yards. That's been tabled. It's, to me and to President Hibbert, it was really poorly set out. It didn't read good. The most important factor, I got a letter, phone call from Linda Paquette on it, a lot of emails, but it was so poorly thought out that the Assembly has nothing to do with the governor mandates or if the Senate and President mandates. There's nothing we can do, so why are we going through hours of testimony when really there's nothing we can do? We can't make a resolution to override the government. So they tabled it, and like I said, I think it was poorly written. It had a lot of stuff in there that was like, I didn't think was, it didn't give the equal balance between the individual rights as well as the medical rights. So I'm glad we tabled it, because I don't think it'll come back. So, but basically that's what I wanted to talk about.
I had a question from some time back. There was a resolution that you co-sponsored limiting the comment time for Assembly members.
Yes.
And I know it didn't pass, but I was wanting to know what led up to that. And what
Led up to it was the 10-15 minute lectures after, when the Assembly, in case we limit these people to one time, 3 minutes. They sit and listen to us. And we get a lot of people online as well. We're starting to get more people in the Assembly. But we've got a few guys that like to talk about committee meetings and stuff like that. As far as I'm concerned, that should be part of the agenda. And then at the end, when everybody wants to leave, it's already 10:30. You go to 11, right? And then you have somebody talk about family history and stuff like that. We don't need a history lesson. Go on the facts, state what you want to say. We even went to 5 minutes instead of the original 3 minutes on suggestion from the public. So it's been going on. The public wants to know why we get to sit there for 10-15 minutes and yak about stuff that they don't care about. They want to hear stuff that they came to listen to. So I co-sponsored it just for that reason. I tried to make mine short and sweet. You know, recognize people in Seward and tell them about the road report and stuff like that. But there's a couple of them that just go on and on. And then I lose track of what they're talking about. Because I'm sitting right next to them. So that's why.
I was curious. Okay.
So.
Are there any other questions? Well, we appreciate you and your son coming.
He even put his dress shirt on for you.
We'll make him stand up so we can see it.
Yeah. You want to wave at council, or is that too much?
Want to wave at council?
Nice to see you. Thank you so much.
What a cutie.
Next on the agenda is city manager's report, and that starts on page 9 of your packet, and I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you stated, my report's on page 9. A couple things that are not in the report that I wanted to report on is that the library is now fully staffed, and we're super excited about that. Last week, Lisa Murkowski was in town and had a tour again of Lowell Canyon Project. And I'm not sure Doug was going to be in the hall.
Doug's here.
There he is. Okay, and to speak to, so one thing I wanted to state is that, you know, my first fall in Seward, and Doug has warned me, and we've all talked about flooding and that sort of thing. So overnight when there's a lot of rain, and then of course a thunderstorm, which is pretty exciting. But a thunderstorm, I sent him a text at 6. I'm like, hey, any flooding, any emergency stuff that I need to know about? Da, 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 da. I think I woke him up. But anyway, and so then, as you know, there's not any flooding, but it's, I'm just watching it to more so to learn. And so Stephen and Norm went out to the outfall along with Doug and took pictures, and I just thought it'd be nice to have an update of the outfall.
Sure, hopefully you can hear through this, like everybody's wearing. Yeah, I was just out there again, and obviously the rain has slowed way down. It's pretty nice right now outside. Hope it stays that way. It's supposed to have a little bit of a lull here. We got a little color this afternoon in the falls over there. It didn't turn dark, but it had a little brown to it. A little extra, but it only got up to, I think 30 feet per second coming on there. I mean, the danger, yeah, I mean, when it gets up to 100, 200, and last in 18, the bigger one we had then was 380, and that was cubic feet per second instead of just surface, just feet per second. So they took that off the graph, but it's still, it's fairly mild, but it's something we're all looking at. That rain, we didn't know if it was going to stop today or not, the way it kept coming this afternoon. But we're, as always, on standby, watching the conditions and ready to go out, and hoping it just doesn't always happen at midnight or 2 in the morning. But I'd answer any questions if somebody had any of that.
So I have a question specific to, thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Great.
Along with Lisa Murkowski's visit, we spoke about Lowell Canyon, but also that Stephen spent some time speaking with Layla, the senator's aide, regarding J1s and H2Bs as well. So we're going to continue that conversation to see what can be done, and at least they'll have the Seward perspective as well. As you can see, the employees are continuing to wear masks. I do a weekly check-in on counts and cases, and when we're at a lower level, then we'll discontinue, but for now we're continuing on. Something else that's I'm watching along with HR is regarding President Biden's mandates regarding mandatory vaccinations and how it affects the city. So at this time, we're not affected by the mandate, but there's always that possibility that we will be. So we'll continue to watch that information as well.
I'll kick it off with questions. The electric department on page 12, that was great. I just don't know if you want to let us know what the outage was on 9/9. It was after this packet. And I also wanted to bring up getting our Facebook page out there. That was well done of you. I noticed you put it on a local group, and I think it got more readership. But it's very helpful that the public's made aware quickly, which the electric department's been doing a good job about what's happening time. So if you just want to just let the public know what that 9/9 outage was regarding.
If it's acceptable, I'll have it.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
9/9, we actually got a call from Chugach once we had the outage, and we had a breaker in their substation that tripped, and as a result of that, they were able to tell us we had a fault on the system somewhere near the city. We sent out our crews to look for the problem, and not far away from the Fort Raymond substation, we had a tree that had blown into the line. As you may recall, we had very high winds on that particular day. I know we've had some smaller outages, and I'll just quickly touch on those. Over the past several days, And almost all of those have been because of squirrels getting into the line. So just to let you know, I think we had 3 outages over the weekend, and they were all squirrels. Yeah.
And then we were on generator for a short period of time on 9/9.
We were very short time, and we were able to come off. I'm trying to remember. Is that the one we were on generator? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good, thank you very much.
All righty.
Are there any other questions for, sorry to jump right in there. Did you have a question for city administration with the manager's report?
Yes, I
Thank
do.
you.
How are we coming on the forensic audit?
It is still in process. I believe it was not last week, but the week before. The auditors were back on site, going through documents, asking questions. I think that we're at least, I think it's 6 weeks out from a report.
Thank you.
And internally, our audit is continuing, continuing to audit the utility accounts. That is continuing along with their audit as well.
Is that why we got the a refund, this letter, that was something wrong with our light bills this time?
That actually occurred due to, I'm going to term it as the solar energy accounts, but that's probably not the greatest term, but the solar energy accounts had received a credit on that, a charge on that, and unfortunately got applied to all accounts. That's 800 additional accounts, and that's why there's a credit on those 800 additional accounts.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions regarding the manager's report? Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is the city attorney's report, and that can be found starting on page 19 of the packet. And I'll turn it over.
Mayor, good evening, council. This report covers the calendar month of August, which was, I'm pleased to report, another routine month in the legal department. We did some fairly ordinary tasks, including taking a look at the RFP for the fencing contract that's before you for approval. Since the start of this month, we also looked at the contract, of course. Prepared what's called a no litigation letter that is done when the city anticipates applying for a loan from the state bond bank, the municipal bond bank. And that, I believe, is related to some of the resolutions that are before you this evening, but you kind of get lined up so that you can move forward, so to speak. So we help position the city for that. Took a look at the final version of the CBA that was approved last month. Gave some help in preparing a COVID personnel policy update to the manager. We've got a couple of enforcement matters going in the planning and zoning area. Still, we're hopeful of resolving it without getting too complicated, but can't say one way or the other at this point if that's how it's going to work. We did, when I was down here last month, the council asked for some kind of like a double check on a proposed change to Title 15, mostly cross references to the building code, which did that work. The biggest thing that I worked on in the month was the recodification project, a fairly substantial project. I'm now at the like 75% done, so I feel like my part of the work is on track to be completed this calendar year, which is one of the goals that I have certainly set up this year. That contract with software services that we approved last month, that was something that we looked at. Some of these things get a little bit of a time lag because I'm down here on the second Monday, but it's just easier for me to report based on a calendar month than to try to remember what do they do the first 10 days versus the last 10 days. And we've got a preposition on the ballot in October. We looked at the explanatory language that goes out to the voters because it's kind of a requirement that it be neutral, so we took a peek at that to make sure it's on the right side of the line. And we started work on a project that I think is still a ways off in the future, which is potential city disposals of property that the goal is to encourage development of residential real estate here in Seward, hopefully in a way that results in affordable housing for full-time people that live here rather than seasonal rental type properties. And so we started to take a look at, what kind of language we would incorporate into that process that would help or even require that that goal be achieved. And we do that through either covenants or deed restrictions, things like that. So we kind of started working on that. Also prepared, I talked a little bit last month about some revisions to the agreements that govern the Shellfish Hatchery and university property that is leased from the city, and we put together some drafts, and your tenants have to look at them, and they have some issues to work out amongst themselves, I think, before they're actually all done. You've got a potential future tenant at the United States Coast Guard, and so they're in the process of checking out property to possibly lease, and usually when that happens, the property owner might give somebody permission to go onto your property to do some investigation. So we help put that paperwork together. That kind of summarizes the bulk of what we did in August, and happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for the city attorney? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is presentations. And we have the Alaska Submarine Memorial Project presentation by Doug Pond and, different names, Juan Salvo. Come up. Hello, thank you. So great to have you here. Thanks for being in Seward today.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. My name is Bueno Salo. I've been a resident for 33 years in the state of Alaska. Before I get started, a couple things I'd like to say. First of all, I want to bring some recognition to a good friend of mine, Tom Timpson, if you're with me. Tom is also a plank owner like myself. We're the original crew members. And what has happened is that Tom is one of those people that's unique because he actually spent time building the boat before he went in the Navy and became a sailor on the boat.
Yeah.
So.
Can I interrupt and ask, was that in Bath, Maine, or where was it at?
That was in Groton, Connecticut.
Oh, Connecticut, okay.
But where you worked at was?
Quonset Point, Rhode Island.
Thank you.
But anyhow, yeah, and Tom's been in the state for approximately 12 years. First, I'd like to say thank you to the City Council, the Mayor, for allowing us to talk about this historic project that we're trying to bring forward and bring about to the City of Seward. And second of all, I'd like to say a big shout out to Lydia Jacoby. As myself, I've ran the Mount Marathon 5 times in a row back in the early 90s. I know how hard it is to do things, and for her to put Seward on the map again, or a spotlight, it was pretty outstanding for her gold medal accomplishment in swimming. I am presenting this project to you in the city of Seward because we believe that the city of Seward and the importance of the city of Seward being the honorary home port to the Alaska that is the best fit for this project of this magnitude. Next slide, please. I brought along with me, if you can see over here, some renditions of possibly what we envision the submarine memorial and museum to look like when it's finished and completed. The submarine is going to be a reproduction of the whole submarine, 560 feet long. It's going to be above water line, and it'll be a complete submarine. You won't be able to go inside of it, but you can walk on top of it. The only thing that's going to change on it all will be the sail on top of it. When the Alaska gets decommissioned in approximately 7 years, we're going to ask the DOD to get the original sail. That's like the holy grail to the submariners off the Alaska. So we're going to be asking them for that. Once that happens, we're going to swap it out for that. Then we've got the museum. The museum is going to be a 2-story museum, and it's going to have possibly the area of where we call it the control room where the periscopes are at. That's going to be in there. It's also going to have a mock-up version of what the engine room will look like, non-classified, of course. And then we'll have different memorabilia, different kinds of artifacts that we're going to be able to get from the Alaska itself. 90% of that will be coming from the Alaska itself. 5% of the museum will be contributed to native art throughout the whole state of Alaska. And another 5% of it will be going towards the one room in it will be dedicated to the other 3 ships that were named after the Alaska. We haven't determined whether or not we're gonna try to, get the acreage in there, but at least the ones that were named after the state of Alaska, we'd like to dedicate a room to those. Next slide, please. What's in it for Seward and the state of Alaska? First of all, we're gonna say jobs. We're gonna offer all the jobs to the city, the businesses of Seward, and all individuals. We'd like to obviously keep this all within the city, so we'll go hunt them all down and see who would be best appropriated for those positions as permitted. We know that, once again, the economy, it's going to be a huge boost to the economy, just like the Sea Life Center is. We know that, like I said, with the Alaska residents that are in the ex-military, military, both, we've got the cruise passengers, which there will be a ton of, and we have veterans, and we also have tourists. So we're hoping, like I said, that in order to go forward with this, and like I said, that's going to be a big boost to the city of Seward. In regards to fundraising, the first thing I'd like to say is that by no means will the city of Seward or the state of Alaska have any money in this, because we don't plan. Our envision project for this is to get the money from out-of-state, in-state corporations, foundations, nonprofit foundations, and then also big businesses, small businesses, and individuals. Next slide, please. The history of the Alaska. The Alaska was the 7th Trident out of 18 submarines that were built. We were commissioned in January 25th of 1986 on a very, very cold day in Groton, Connecticut, actually New London, Connecticut, right across the river. And Mrs. Catherine Stevens is and still is our ship sponsor. Once again, I said Seward is the honorary home port for the Blue Crew, and the Gold Crew was for Fairbanks Bureau. Also, what I brought down below the easel down here is a commemorative print that was to honor when we pulled in 1987. We came in July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of that year, and it was Seward opened its arms, opened up everything to us, and the people responded brilliantly. We had over 4,500 people in the 3 days, being the 4th of July, of course, Mount Marathon race, but we had over 4,500 people that toured the submarine, and that's pretty tough. And the last thing too on this is that as far as the submarine Alaska is the only and first, and at the present time still on top of the list of the most patrols. We are the first ballistic missile submarine to reach 100 patrols. So that's quite an accomplishment. Next slide, please. Who we are. Our corporation is made up of plank owners and crew members from the Alaska. We are a registered Alaska Nonprofit Corp. We have an Alaska business license. We have Alaska our bank account. And as of right now, we're waiting for our status on our 501c3, which we submitted in June of this year, and we're hoping to get that back by next month. Next slide, please. This is our 5-phase goal in order to turn around for success. And what we have here is, like I said, our first phase basically is, besides the, waiting for the approval of the 501c3, we have the first phase finished right now, and we're ready to move on to the second. With your help, we can go that route. Next phase. What we're asking from the City Council right now, from you folks, we'd like the partnership in a joint study in the planning of this project. We'd also request that we partner up with the city and regional staff to address different questions, major questions that you need to ask me or need to ask the corporation, and whatever we can do to make this happen. We'd also like to turn around and do joint efforts in regards to communicate the information of the project to the citizens of Seward and Alaska, and involve the citizens of Seward and Alaska in the study, the planning, and the execution of this project. Next. Once again, that's the USS McKee right there, and we pulled in and we're moored up next to her. I don't know if I can ask you the question of any of you, were you here when we pulled in? And if so, did you tour the boat? Okay, so you got a good idea what it was like. Pretty impressive. In closing, We have the opportunity to create and build something that has never been done before. The historic importance of Seward, one of the 2 honorary home ports, is huge. This memorial, when built, will attract national and worldwide attention through the thousands of visitors that come to Seward each year. Just know that as a plank owner and a sailor, to have served and helped build, that the City of Seward and the State of Alaska will be creating the first ever above waterline reproduction of an Ohio-class Trident submarine will be a historic to all submariners that have served. The Alaska, when decommissioned, will be the most decorated Ohio-class submarine of all 18 Tridents built. Seward is the perfect fit for this historic memorial. I ask you please to think, dream, and discuss everything that I've told you tonight about this ambitious project. I and approximately 4,000 men and women who have served so far on the Alaska want to thank the Mayor, the City Council for your time and patience regarding this project. It will benefit the city and Seward and the state of Alaska forever. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Sir, are there any questions? No, we very much appreciate your time and presentation today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, there are no public hearing items. There's no unfinished business. The first resolution that we're taking up today is Resolution 2021-100, and Clerk, if you could read the title into the minutes.
Resolution 2021-100 is authorizing the city manager to purchase transmission system materials, poles, pole top and support assemblies, conductors. It seems like I read that.
Insulators.
Insulators and other related equipment in the amount of $15,021,744 to replace aging and deteriorating equipment and to upgrade the system's voltage capacity to meet future land load growth.
I'm looking for a motion in a second.
I move for the approval of Resolution 2021-100.
I seconded.
Okay, and that starts on page 80 of your packet, and I'll turn it over to administration to explain the resolution before us.
Sure.
Please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we discussed in our session earlier this evening, the City of Seward, we're at a crossroads when it comes to our electric transmission infrastructure. And what's driving where we are today really are 2 factors. The first is the age of the poor condition of much of the equipment on our transmission system, and the other is a need for us to look out for the future load growth in Seward. And so in looking to upgrade our voltage capacity of our system from a 69 kV system to a 115 kV system. As part of this overall effort, we've identified 5 projects that would address the issues that need to be addressed. The first project is the Nash Road rebuild. For this particular project, we're looking at almost a complete rebuild and replacement of the poles and equipment on Nash Road going to our Spring Creek substation. Many of the poles that were installed in the 50s and 60s, I've been told. Other people say, in the 70s. Regardless, they are beyond their service life, well beyond their service life today. For us to completely rebuild the transmission infrastructure along Nash Road into Spring Creek is projected to cost around $3.4 million. The second project is the Seward Highway upgrade. This is the lowest cost of the 5 projects we're looking at. It's fairly straightforward. It is basically rebuilding from Dick Graff Road into the Fort Raymond substation. This is a distance of approximately a half mile. The good news is that from our Lawing substation near Moose Pass all the way into Seward, that has already been built and insulated to 115 kV. So now we're looking to complete that last half mile from Dick Graff into the Fort Raymond substation. The cost of that project is around $426,000. The next project is our most expensive out of these 5. This is converting the substations from a 69 kV capacity to a 115 kV capacity. This work does not include the 7 new transformers that we would need as part of an overall infrastructure upgrade. This includes all of the related equipment as well as doing some ground grid work and other work within the substations. This particular project is in the neighborhood of $5.6 million. The next project is our Spring Creek substation refurbishment. This is the substation that serves SMIC and the Spring Creek Correctional Facility. Again, a big part of this cost is taking an existing large transformer from our Lawing substation, refurbishing it, and placing it in the Spring Creek substation, providing redundancy in our system for that particular area. The 5th project on our list is building a new substation in the harbor. It'll be a small substation. We would also, in doing that, need to extend 115 kV high voltage lines from the Fort Raymond power plant into the new harbor substation. This is going to be particularly important as our load in Seward grows. And if the city is looking to take on shore power for cruise ships, we would absolutely need to have this upgrade take place. Cruise ships, to serve them, their load is anywhere from 7 to 11 megawatts. On a typical day in Seward, our load is 8 to 9 megawatts, so we're nearly doubling the load on our system. So if the city has a plan to take on cruise ship power, or be prepared, say we do not take on cruise ship power, be prepared for another potentially large project to come into Seward, we might as well take this opportunity to upgrade the system so that we can serve that additional load if it happens. That particular project will be around $2.1 million. Bottom line, and you've heard me speak to you before, is that we have a lot of infrastructure that is in poor condition. It is well beyond its service life, and it's time that this council, the electric department, and for the people that live here, that we make the upgrades that we need to ensure reliable power for the residents here and the businesses here for the next 30 to 40 years.
Thank you. City Manager, did you have anything to add?
The only thing I wanted to, and it is highlighted, but also add, is that the transformers that Director Montgomery spoke about are actually in the next resolution. So
correct.
This is the other $15 million worth of work in this resolution, and then the other is in.
Yeah, if you look at it, if you break it down this way, this $15 million is basically for the delivery system. Your poles, your pole top assemblies, your support assemblies, your insulators, the lines themselves. The second resolution that the city manager is referring to is actually for the transformers needed on the system. And most of these transformers would actually go into the substations. Many of them are large, and they take up to 72 weeks to be delivered once ordered. So that's another reason that we separated and pulled the transformers out, because there's a great sense of urgency to do both projects, but we really need to get an order in for the transformers if we're to get them delivered in a time period that would allow us to do work in 2023. So you're still looking a year, year and a half out before we can even begin working.
I'm just going to kick it off with 2 questions. We have had previous work sessions on these projects, and one of the questions at the time that wasn't decided on was the type of poles, whether we're looking at wood or metal or pressed.
Right.
So how did we come to moving forward with wood?
With wood poles, certainly the cost is going to be less, so that was a key factor. in us choosing the wood poles. But also, if you look at, say, Nash Road, for example, there are many places along the transmission corridor where the lines and the poles move away from the highway, and they're going up through some very rugged terrain. In those conditions, it's very difficult to get equipment into the right-of-way when you're on steep cliffs and inclines. By keeping with wooden poles, we can actually have our linemen go in and climb, whereas with metal poles, they are not able to climb. If the whole line along Nash Road was adjacent to the highway and we had easy access, then a different type of pole may make sense.
And then my second question, thanks for letting me jump out there, is so with the Nash Road infrastructure, Seward Highway upgrades, so the upgrade pieces, all those items were being upgraded regardless of whether we were 69 kV or 115 kV. So you're
Right.
taking the opportunity to just have that smaller delta.
Correct.
Because we'd be replacing all that infrastructure regardless.
We're at a point where we need to replace that infrastructure. So we are, it's an opportune time to go ahead and build the system, finish the system, because it's already been started, to the 115 kV. Because that prepares us for the future. It will also help with line losses and power factor, but more importantly, it will set Seward up for the next 30 to 40 years. If you have large businesses come in, if you decide to take cruise ship power, then these upgrades will allow us to do that. And again, the system, a lot of it's already been built for 115 kV. This would allow us to finish it, and the cost to do so is much less because we have to replace the equipment anyway.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Are there additional questions? Councilmember Cease?
When you use wood poles, is there any, because when you bury them, it gets rotten. Is there any way to have the bottom part coated with metal
There
or
are
something?
systems for doing that. When we work with the contractor, that's certainly one of the things that we'll be looking at, because the condition of the poles on Nash Road now, I don't know, we've shown pictures and video, they should never get to that point.
Okay, I mean, you probably don't have to do all the way up because you can't climb
Right.
it, but at least in the ground.
Correct, and they're all treated so that they are to last, a good 30 years, 35 years. And if you look at the power poles on Nash Road, they're almost a chalky white where they should be a dark color. Okay.
Vice Mayor Buckland?
So when I'm 70 years old and I'm sitting in the audience and we talk about later how we got to this point where we're in so much trouble now, what is the plan moving forward to make sure we don't end up in this, and what we're doing now, either, I know we're talking about rate study, that I understand that.
Sure.
But now what are we going to be doing to watch these poles, watch this infrastructure as we move forward, so that we're not spending $20 million in one chunk
Right.
at the next time?
Yeah, and unfortunately, we shouldn't be at the point we're at. Our plan for moving forward, if we were to get the approval to move forward with these projects, this would set us up for, again, long-term, 30 to 40 years for the bulk of the transmission system. What we would at that point do is we would be monitoring on an annual basis all of the sections. I know that the transmission system between Moose Pass and Seward is in pretty good shape for the most part. But there are some sections that we will be needing to address in maybe 5 years, 7 years, and then again 10, 12 years. So the key is staying on top of it, monitoring your system. One of the things that we're looking to do is put in, just from a pole standpoint, a pole testing program so that we can stay on top of the condition of our poles. We've also been doing, in recent months, and I'm not sure if it was done before, but we've been doing oil testing on our transformers. By doing the oil testing, it'll tell you the current condition, but more importantly, if you're doing them on a regular basis, it shows you how they're trending. So how quickly are they deteriorating? The ones we have now are deteriorating quickly. The engineer that was in here earlier this evening, he had said point blank, I hope we get through the winter. So that is a true concern. So with the different testing programs and monitoring the system, we will stay on top of the maintenance that's needed and address it as it's happening. Okay?
If I could just add to that, I think also too that the role of the city manager is to hold the utility director accountable, and your role is to hold the city manager accountable so that this doesn't happen again. And that's our plan, is to communicate to make sure these points stay in place so that, and the work gets taken care of so it doesn't happen again.
Now this is difficult, and I get it. You know, it's tough to come in here and ask the council to approve a revenue bond for, if you look at the transformers as well, you know, almost $20 million. A city the size of Seward, that's a difficult pill to swallow. But we're also at a point with our infrastructure that, you know, we have to make that decision. It's a hard one. It's not hard now, but it should have been made a while back. Now we're at the point where we have to pull the trigger. If we don't, it could fail at any time, particularly Nash Road. It's time that we do something, time that we take action and stop talking about what we need to do. Let's do it.
So, in this resolution, there is a total of 19,381 on the worksheet.
Right.
But then the resolution itself is for 15 million. So am I correct in, if I add resolution 2021-100 to resolution 2021-101, that's those two combined?
Correct.
Come close to that number?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And may I just answer further? So you'll notice the 19.4, which is the number that you're coming up with. We rounded it to 19.4. But there's also the anticipated revenue bond funding. We submitted for 18 million. At one point we thought that was going to be the total, but it's not. But we cannot resubmit, so we're going with that, and the remainder coming from the reserves.
Vice Mayor?
Reserves or from the remaining funding through electric reserves?
Correct.
Electric reserves, not the
Correct.
unassigned.
Correct.
Is there any further questions or discussion? Thank you, Madam Clerk. I think we're ready for a vote.
Voting on the approval of resolution 2021-100. Buckland,
Yes.
Demoss,
Yes.
Casagranda,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Next on the agenda is resolution 2021-101. Madam Clerk, if you could read that title into the minutes.
Resolution 2021-101 is authorizing the city manager to purchase 7 electric transformers in an amount not to exceed $4,800,000, which includes a 15% contingency to help ensure service reliability for Seward residents and businesses, while also allowing the city to meet future load growth and appropriating funds.
And I'm looking for a motion and a second.
I move for the approval of resolution 2021-101.
I seconded.
Thank you. And I know these are so tightly tied together. You've already discussed it a little
Right.
bit, but maybe there's more things to add specific to the transformers?
You know, when you look at the transformers, we're needing to order 7. Most of these would be going into substations, so they're large, fairly large transformers. These transformers typically run anywhere from 400,000 up to 800, the ones we're looking for. So the total amount here came to be around $4.3 million. Unfortunately, the transformers that we're needing to replace, most of them are around 40 years old or older. Our testing, our oil testing that we've done shows that they are deteriorating, that they are in poor condition. We had an engineer come in from Chugach about a month ago who looked at our oil testing, and he said, you better start ordering your transformers today because of the length of time it takes to get them once you place the order. He said, this is not something you should be waiting on. That's where we are. So when you look at our transformers and you add that to the transmission delivery system, it's more or less one package. The only reason I pulled the transformers out separately is if for some reason we got delayed on the delivery system. Most of that equipment doesn't take as long to get in once you place the order. The transformers, on the other hand, some of those transformers take up to 72 weeks. So from our perspective, pulling those transformers out so that we could go ahead and get approval so that we can get the order placed is just critical. And that's the stage we're at.
And I'll just renew my question. So these are transformers for the most part. Besides the new transformers, there's a number of these transformers that you would be replacing regardless of the 69 kV, and you're just, so there's a smaller delta.
Correct.
Okay.
So there are some cost efficiencies from going ahead and upgrading the transformers from their 69 kV voltage to the 115 kV. So let's take advantage of, since we're having to replace them anyway, of going ahead and upgrading the system.
And I have one more question. So the 15% contingency, that brings it up to the 4.8, which you won't spend the contingency obviously unless you have to, but is it at that 15% level because just the volatility of the market and the shipping, is that why we're?
Correct, you're exactly right. In working with our engineer, he felt very uncomfortable just going with a 5 or a 10% contingency because of the movement that we're seeing in the market. And it's been very unpredictable. So he wanted to make sure we gave ourselves a big enough cushion to absorb it if we needed to.
And just one more follow-up. I mean, just as a council member, if this does pass, I would like to have updates and be kept informed about how
Not a problem.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
There's no information on the disposal of this, so are you gonna have to come back and ask us for more money to dispose of it?
No, that'll be handled by the contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions, discussion? Thank you, Madam Clerk. It looks like we're ready for a vote.
Voting on the approval of resolution 2021-101, Lackawanna,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
Casagranda,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is resolution 2021-102. Madam Clerk, if you could read that title over the minutes.
Resolution 2021-102 is authorizing the city manager to enter into and execute the purchase and sale agreement and related documents with Chugash Mew for the sale of a 3.31 acre portion of Lot 7A, Fort Raymond subdivision, replat number 1, physical address 2101 Diamond Boulevard, 2109 Diamond Boulevard, in the amount of $663,500.
And council, that starts on page 90, and I'm looking for a motion and a second.
I move for the approval of resolution 2021-102.
I second it.
Thank you. Councilmember Osenga?
Yeah, I pulled this from the consent because I need to check with, I don't feel that there's a conflict of interest, but I did serve on Chugachimut's board as an alternate member, but it's been 3 years since I've done that. But I just wanted to make sure that that was out in public and everyone knows that there was a time when I was on this board, but I am no longer on this board.
And then I wanted to ask you a question. Do you have a direct or indirect substantial financial interest of either a single $1,000 impact or $5,000 aggregate over the next 12 months?
No, I don't.
I'm going to go ahead and rule that there's no conflict of interest.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'll turn it over to administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As all of you know, the council on April 12th approved resolution 2021-038, which authorized the city manager to negotiate with Chugachimut for the sale in terms of the 3.31 acres known as the Fort Raymond replat number 1, lot 7A. Along with that, 2 appraisals were completed, one by the city, which came in at $750,000, and the second one completed by Chugach, which came in at $577,000. Negotiations then began, and we ended at the middle point. Chugach has agreed to purchase at the middle point of, which is $663,500, and the resolution accepts this as the middle point, I should point that out, and as fair market value, which is a condition required in code. So the signed purchase agreement is in your packet, the signed by Chugach, I should say, Chugach Mute is in your packet. Beginning on page 96, that is in your packet. So we've completed the negotiations, and this is where we've ended, and this is the sale price that we have concluded with.
We'll open it up for council if there's questions for the city manager. Discussion. Councilmember Casagrande.
I guess I've just never been involved in the selling of land as a council member, so is it pretty much, okay, so let me back up. Fair market value, in my opinion, is the appraised value, which would be the highest appraised value. I mean, if I was going to, normally when you buy something, the lender will hire, a third party will hire an appraiser, so it's not their appraisal or our appraisal. But I do understand in the event when there is no lender involved, then, you know, each person can get their own appraisal. Is there a date on these appraisals when they were completed? Are they approximately the same time, within the same month?
Yes.
Okay.
They are.
So I guess as a council member, my question would be, like, can you amend it to say it's gonna be $750,000? Or do we just say the negotiations are already done and it's out of our hands and we just take it for what's before us, or don't? Is it a yes, no?
At this point, it's a yes, no. This is what they've agreed upon. If the council were to do something differently, I would have to contact them to see if they were amenable to that.
Okay. I don't need the date anymore. I'm good.
I have a question. So I see that the attorney did review this, and so public property disposal is 7.05150, and it says if an appraisal is made, the property interest shall not be disposed of for less than the appraised fair market value unless the city finds by resolution that the public interest will be served by disposing of the property interest for less than the appraised fair market value. I'm just gonna ask the attorney, I mean, you're obviously aware of this code, you've reviewed this resolution, and this resolution does meet the requirements outlined in our code for disposing of public property?
Yes, it does, because the proposed price exceeds one of the two appraisals. You're probably all aware that an appraisal is an opinion. So the concept that there is a magic number that equals the appraised value is a little bit artificial. Some appraisers are like attorneys, you get two of them and reach different opinions on the exact same question. And these two appraisers reached different opinions on the exact same question that they were asked, which is what is the fair market value of this property? So as long as the purchase agreement exceeds one of the two appraisals, then it's fine. And the special public interest finding is not required by the code. If you were selling it for lower than both of these appraisals, then that provision would kick in.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Councilmember Casagrande.
Is there any, What, is there anything that protects the corporation from purchasing the land and doing nothing and/or purchasing the land, subdividing it off and profiting from it?
No, the agreement does not have any language that prohibits subdivision and resale.
Madam Mayor, if I may, however, they are receiving a federal grant for this purpose. So they have to meet the grant conditions. So the grant conditions are the purchase of the land and the building of the clinic. So to receive the funding and to do the project, they have to stick to the terms of the purchase and to put in the clinic there.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Madam Clerk, I think we're ready to call for a vote.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2021-102, Cease.
Yes.
Casagranda.
No.
Demas.
Yes.
Osenga.
Yes.
Buckland.
Yes.
McClure.
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Next on the agenda is 2021-104. Madam Clerk, if you could read the title into the minutes.
Resolution 2021-104 is declaring its intention, I'm sorry, pardon me, I just need to check that. 104, declaring its intention to reimburse itself from proceeds of one or more tax-exempt financing for certain expenditures made or to be made in connection with the acquisition, construction, and equipping of certain electrical system capital improvements.
Thank you. And we're looking for a motion in a second.
I move for the approval of resolution 2021-104.
I second it.
And I pulled this off the consent agenda. I wonder if administration can just speak to it and clarify, just to talk about the nuances between what this does as opposed to having a resolution approving a bond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So prior to the city's application, the bond council recommend that we pass a resolution declaring the city's intention to seek reimbursement for qualifying preliminary projects costs with bond proceeds for expenses before the bond is issued. This resolution does not approve a bond. That will be back before you at a later date. But just in the chance that we do go, do have a bond before you to approve, this, in essence, retroactives a little bit, goes back to approving some of the preliminary expenses that are allowable under the bond. This is recommended by the bond council that this be a pass. Now, should a bond not be approved by the council, or there's some other funding mechanism, then this becomes null and void.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm just wondering why the type in the resolution on this, maybe I have the wrong one, but why they're different? The title in the agenda and the title on the thing are different.
I don't know.
Declaring, here's the two.
So the title of the resolution is on page 222.
I'm not sure.
No, 217.
We're on.
222.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
It matches
There
the-
it is. Oh, no, the tax financing.
My
It's just
apologies,
missing
I
the-
do not,
It just seems weird on that, and I just don't know what that means about noticing, so.
if I may, the agenda was noticed with the correct title, so it would be the correct title that was on the agenda. So my apologies, I don't know. I'm still copied and pasted the wrong one.
Can you clarify for me? I don't understand.
I don't see a difference.
So on the agenda, it says, number 10, declaring its intention, and then 222 says a resolution of the city council to declare, okay.
It's the same.
It just has that.
It's just
little
missing that,
extra.
okay. I was looking at
Okay.
the other one.
Thank you.
Okay. It just looks weird on the,
You're correct, and that kind of
it looks,
scared me for a
it's
minute.
like declaring whose intention
Yeah.
is not stated there, so it just seems.
Yeah, in the, as you see in the agenda statement, we
Yeah.
start at the verb there to put it on, and thank you. My heart is now, okay. Yeah, it's the structure.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, let's call for a vote, please.
Voting on the approval of resolution 2021-104. Cease.
Yes.
Buckland.
Yes.
Casagrande.
Yes.
McClure.
Yes.
Demoss.
Yes.
Osenga.
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Next on the agenda is resolution 2021-105. Madam Clerk.
Resolution 2021-105 is approving certain general fund capital improvement projects for planning, prioritization, and implementation.
And I'm looking for a motion in a second.
I move for the approval of resolution 2021-105.
I second it.
City Manager.
And I'm going to turn it over to the Assistant City Manager, who did
So-
all of this before I arrived.
So a lot of groundwork has gone into developing our capital improvement project list. We've had a couple work sessions, and the packet contents are included in your packet before you tonight, as well as copies of the surveys that council filled out as we move forward. As we get ready to go into budget season, the capital improvement list in its entirety will come before you guys as part of the budget process. But essentially what we're trying to do here is get just consensus from council on where we go. So there's been a lot of discussion lately with our state and our federal lobbyists about getting projects to quote shovel ready in order to be eligible for receiving federal infrastructure money. Hopefully Congress is going to be passing the federal infrastructure bill later on this month. And side note, our federal lobbyist Sebastian O'Kelly will be providing the community and council an update at the next council meeting on that bill. Hopefully by then it's passed. But just in preparation for that, administration would like some just direction from council on kind of the next 5 projects that you would like us to pursue. As noted in the agenda statement, we're obviously moving forward with the animal shelter project. Senator Murkowski was down last week to support again her commitment for getting full funding for the Lowell Creek Tunnel project. So that's top of mind, but we're just bringing back before you the results from the survey that you guys already expressed your interest in, and we're looking forward to moving some of those capital improvement projects forward.
I have a motion to make, and then I'll see if I get a second, and then I'd like to, I can explain more. But on number 5, I'd like to strike establishment of and replace with conduct a needs assessment for. So number 5 would read in its entirety, conduct a needs assessment for a community recreation center.
I'll second.
And I guess I just want to make that small change because just talking to community members, I've heard, are we doing a pool? Are we doing a hockey rink? Are we, definitely people want a walking track, is it outside, inside? I think as a community, we really need to clarify, not to take a step back. I still want to move forward, but I would like to see a needs assessment done and have administration do a lot of legwork on what we want it to look like. So that's my motion. We'll see if it flies.
For discussion, I'm just curious, as the maker of the motion, I definitely don't want to lose any momentum that we have right now. Would it be possible to add an and, establish a community, the first part that you said, and establish an establishment, I don't remember what you said, but basically conduct a study and.
So my current motion is conduct a needs assessment for a community recreation center.
Conduct a needs.
Assessment for a community recreation center, which, so maybe you're saying conduct a needs assessment for establishment of a community recreation center?
I think we should. No.
Okay, yeah.
I'll go ahead and let everyone discuss and I'll try to figure it out. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, sorry.
I think we should vote on that, and then if there's an amendment to that, then we should move forward that way.
Councilmember
I agree, I think what she's trying to cover is to both of them.
So if there's no further discussion, we can vote on that motion, and maybe there'll be some better ideas. Okay. Madam Clerk?
Voting on the amendment to conduct a needs assessment. Casagranda,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
Bachland,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That amendment is approved. Your main motion is back on the floor.
And then, so people can still think about that, but I do have another question for administration while people are mulling things over, if that's okay with everyone. So, you know, one of my, items that I think we really need to be conscious of is our housing problem. And so I just wanna maybe articulate and see if this is your thoughts, is we do have that 500,000 from NCL and we're already moving forward with some plans with that. Is that why, you know, maybe a new subdivision or some of those things aren't included on this list?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. Those are projects, so we talked about the Hemlock subdivision, the tot lot sale will be coming back before you. Those are projects in addition to that, but
Those
not.
are already in the pipeline.
Right.
Potentially.
Yes.
I mean, not, that haven't been decided on, but that you're working on to bring back to us.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember
Just a
Simmons?
question, when did addition of utility sites to municipal campgrounds get on this list?
That was on the survey list. So page 232.
There's a couple people that had it rated.
And just to, if I may, Madam Mayor, plug that project. So as you all have seen, our camping rates this summer have been dramatic. We've had extremely high usage, and then with the rate change, administration would definitely like to bring that back before you. In fact, Jeanette and I were just talking earlier this afternoon about if this passes, we'd like to put together the plan to move that project specifically forward this winter time so that we can get additional utilities put in place before next camping season. And we're confident that we can probably get that work done in a timely fashion that wouldn't interrupt springtime camping, and then generate additional revenue from those additional utilities that are brought in. And that's something that Parks and Rec, and I don't know if Adam Saylor wants to speak to this, but that's something that we hear from our customers as well, is that there's a huge demand for those. So that's specifically a project that's a win-win for everybody.
I'll let Councilmember Osenga have a follow-up and then go to Demas. Did you have a follow-up?
I'm good. I just was seeing that I didn't notice, I mean, we have one council member that brought it up on the list here. Is that what I'm understanding with our names on top?
And if I may add, and during the discussion at one of the work sessions, I think it was the first night I was here, in fact, my first meeting, my first day, there was discussion about this being a revenue stream and the importance of
Right.
the revenue
No,
stream.
yeah, right, okay. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Demas, thank you for reading.
Do we have revenue projections for what the additional utility installs would be on those?
The short answer, I will get that for you, our rough estimate, and again, so it was $400,000 cost, and we feel like we can recoup that between 2 and 3 years. So the ROI is solid.
Further discussion? Councilmember Casagrande?
Madam Clerk, can you clarify the verbiage? You said conduct a needs assessment study for a community recreation center is how it reads right now.
Conduct a needs assessment for a community recreation center.
Okay, I'd like to make an amendment. Conduct a needs assessment for the establishment of a community recreation center.
I'll second. Go ahead, did you want to speak to that? Okay, Madam Clerk, will call for a vote.
Okay, on that amendment, conduct a needs assessment for the establishment of a community recreation center. Thank you. Voting on that amendment, Demas?
Yes.
Bachland?
Yes.
McClure?
Yes.
Casagranda?
Yes.
Cease?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Mayor Terry?
Yes.
That amendment is approved.
Any further discussion on the main resolution? Madam Clerk, I think we're ready to call for a vote.
Voting on resolution 2021-105 as amended. Casagrande,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Buckland,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is vote and appoint a representative to the Cook Inlet Agriculture Association with a term to expire in May 2022. Candidates are Robert White and Robert Barnwell. That's found on page 400. And Madam Clerk, if you want to outline the voting process, please.
So council, in front of you are several blank ballots with both candidate names on them. If you would take one ballot and make one mark and sign it and send it over to me, I'll read the votes aloud.
And so I might just ask, you know, the note at the recommendation is, so before you read those names, I wonder, it says, since the term will expire May 2022, council may choose to appoint the representative to serve the remainder of the current term plus the next full term, or else the city clerk will solicit letters of interest in April 2022 for the next term. So should we make that decision before or after we read the names? Does it matter?
That, I would leave that to you to determine.
How does everyone feel? Should we make that determination prior to reading the votes? Does anyone have any strong feelings? Well, I'll just go ahead and move that the vacancy be filled for the remainder of the current term plus the next full term. And I'll look for a second.
I'll second.
So if there's no discussion on that, I'll just call for a vote on that aspect.
And I can clarify now that you voted, I'll wait. Voting on extending the term to, for 3.5 years. Demas,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
Casagrande,
Yes.
Buckland,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
and Mayor Terry.
Yes.
Okay, so that is approved. What I was gonna say is, Cook Inlet does not require that their term ends. That's a term limit that this council is imposing on the position that got put in place several years ago, so. Okay. Reading the ballots, we have one vote for White, one vote for Barnwell, 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 one vote for Barnwell. So that's 6 for Barnwell and 1 for White.
So I'll move to appoint Robert Barnwell as representative to the Cook Inlet Aquaculture Association with a term to expire May 2025.
Wow.
And I'll need a second,
I'll second.
and then we'll vote on that.
Voting on the motion to appoint Robert Barnwell. McClure,
Yes.
Casagrande,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Buckland,
Yes.
and Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That motion is approved.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is discuss the future use or potential sale of the annex building. That's found on page 403, and I will turn that over to administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At a previous meeting, we spoke briefly about selling the annex building, and so we obtained an appraisal, and the appraisal came back at $400,000. We honestly expected to come back higher. So we wanted to bring it to you to discuss what to do next. There's a couple of factors that come into play, and I'll just refer first to why the appraiser stated that value. And it's so the subject building was constructed in 1950 and nearing the end of its economic life. That's one of the factors, and it goes on from there. But also there's a local nonprofit food bank, as you know, he will provide, is in the annex building and has a lease that expires in 2025. And because they provide a valuable service to the community and distribute hundreds of free meals to the vulnerable population in Seward. So we request discussion and possible direction on what to do at this time.
Councilmember DeMoss?
I'll just go ahead and start, I guess, with
Please.
my thoughts on it that are kind of rough, but I think that it's a good opportunity for someone, and I guess I would propose that we put it in for, like, put it out for sealed bid with the minimum of the appraised value, with a condition that they have to abide by the lease of the food bank or figure something out. You know, that would have to carry over.
I would agree with Councilmember DeMoss, but I would maybe, if there's a possibility to talk to, he will provide to move their services to maybe the senior center or another property, or that's something that we have that can help them out, if that would help the sale of the building. And maybe carrying their lease over to that.
Personally, I don't think there's a great urgency to sell, especially at that lower cost or price. And I'd like to see us take care of the food banks. So my preference would be to let it rest for a while and see how things develop, I think, rather than jump into anything.
Okay, I think
No, she-
Councilmember Osenga.
she was
please.
first.
Councilmember.
Is the recreation teen center, is that also in the basement?
The teen center, I believe, is at the senior center.
Yes, but it's on the main floor where the library
It's
was,
in
or the museum?
Isn't it?
They've got both.
It's both in the basement.
They have the both, so where would we put, he will provide up there? They couldn't do it in the senior center part, they wouldn't have room, in my opinion.
And I'm not sure, Parks and Rec might know, is Boys and Girls Club meeting at Temple Studios, or are they at the old TYC property?
They're still at the TYC program.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Osenga?
Yeah, I'm all for Councilmember DeMoss's proposal. The only thing that I would want to do, though, I would caution is that I also agree with Councilmember McClure. That I think maybe we can just kind of slow down a little bit, because I would prefer to have some kind of a knowledge of a plan. If we're going to take people out of that building, I want to know cost of where they're going, how we're going to get them there, renovations, just with the people that are occupying the building right now, the departments that are there. And I know it might not be much, but it would just make me feel a little better if we went through and had a plan before we just up and put a building up for sale that we are currently occupying.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I remember the meeting when they were discussing, I was not on council, but do you have the specifics of their lease? Because I believe it was just paying a portion of utilities for the,
So in 2013, and I can grab that resolution and provide you guys a copy, and I apologize I didn't provide it in the packet. The lease was reduced. I don't recall to what level, but you're correct that 8 years ago that amount was reduced significantly.
I remember.
I'm pretty open. I do think that we need to help find a location he will provide. And I'm initially of the mind, which I can be convinced otherwise, but just hold off any active on our part, but be open to having offers of the building, made to the building. So my opinion would be to have nothing official out there, but if someone comes with a legitimate proposal, that we would respond to that. But that's just throwing that out there for discussion's sake.
I agree with Mr. Osenga that we should wait on it, and that we should make sure that he will provide. And where are we going to put the people that are in there now? Where do you expect them to go? Planning and zoning, and think it's the water, what's one over there then?
Electric.
Electric?
Electric.
So I can see we're giving administration very clear direction.
Yeah.
It
happens.
So, but a couple things that maybe I can articulate and see if we can get some, it doesn't sound like a bad idea to know how everyone would be distributed through. And then, is this something we want to have a work session on, or have it come back in a month with a time certain, or even at the next meeting about some ideas where how those folks would be distributed, and then maybe a couple options on how the property, whether it's signed, sealed bid, or whether it's live auction, or just a couple ideas about what that process would look like more. Would that help structure it, or are we ready for a vote tonight, or Councilmember Cascarande?
I just want to throw another curveball in it all.
Please.
What about leasing it? And I'm glad the attorney's here because I'm probably gonna like dig myself in a hole, but my concern would be that we sell it at a low price and then somebody that doesn't pay property taxes, whoever that is, gets it, and we've sold a building to try to inject more economy, and then we have a building that's not collecting any property tax. So that would be my biggest concern, and I don't know if there's anything, if it can, I don't know the legalities of it, and I hope everyone's picking up what I'm laying down, but I just don't want to see it sit there and not do anything for the citizens and just bring one time money.
Well, I will say, if not just a signed sealed bid, we could structure it as a request for proposals where it has to be a for-profit business that will pay sales tax.
Okay.
I mean, I think there might be some options to explore.
Okay.
I don't know if we're gonna get there tonight. Councilmember Demas?
And I would just comment that it is an old building at the end of its lifespan, so, you know, and it is a seller's market right now, so really waiting isn't maybe the best option just for those two reasons. I don't know if we've talked about how we don't really want to lease, we want to sell some properties, and I like your idea of having some stipulation on it. I don't know if admin feels like we need a work session, or if they feel like they can do the legwork on some of the stuff with that he will provide, and is that something that we want to try and figure out, or is that something that admin wants to try and figure out?
So it sounds like we're still interested, and maybe administration can work out some more of the details for our review.
Okay.
How does council feel about that? It seems like there's hesitation and then also some interest, so it's just getting more details.
So perhaps, so to date, administration has not had a conversation with He Will Provide just because we wanted to bring this back before council prior to having that conversation so that we didn't create any anxiety. We want to make sure that that organization and the valuable service that it offers to the community. So I guess at this point, maybe it would be appropriate for Jeanette and I to meet with He Will Provide and start exploring some options if we're going to terminate the lease before 2025 and care for that, and then maybe have a half an hour work session to bring that information back to council so that you guys can more effectively judge where we go from here.
And along with that, when we bring it back, we can have a plan of where the staff will go.
Is that acceptable to council?
I like that.
I'd respectfully ask that it not be the next council meeting to give us a little bit more time on that. There's no urgency.
Yeah, that's fine. So we'll just give you some time and then start bugging with that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we're going into the budget cycle too, so I don't know if maybe within some of that budget cycle that when you're talking about those departments, maybe some of that starts being part of the discussion. I don't know.
Okay.
Great. So is that enough for administration?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is informational items and reports. There are no citizen comments. There's no sign-in for this comment period, and time is up to 5 minutes per speaker. I'm so excited. Councilmember Bob Valdetta, come to the podium. It's great to have you here. It's a very auspicious day when there's 2 former council members in the
council, administration, and public. Bob Valdetta, 525th Avenue. I'm a 48-year resident of Seward. I was really shocked. I don't know how surprised I was. The gentleman from the USS Alaska come here. I just want to give you a quick, they're plank guys, I'm a Seward guy. Just a little quick history how the USS Alaska originated in Seward. I was reading the Anchorage Times or whatever, the early morning paper on the black column here about a USS Alaska submarine. I went to my favorite buddy, You all recall Sharon Anderson, Anderson Tug and Barge. I said, Sharon, what do you think? She said, Bobby, let's work on it. Sharon put the whole package together and brought that submarine to town, folks. Our Uncle Ted Stevens, our great partner and ex-lawyer of Seward, you know where he wanted to put it? In Kodiak. He almost moved it to Kodiak. So I think I'd like to be on a mailing list or something with the gentleman with this deal. I've got some pictures of the commanders, and I think the one commander was Showbox.
Shotbacks.
Unfortunately, he died of cancer 2 or 3 years later.
Charlie.
But I've got a picture of me standing with them down there in the old Pioneer, and I made a remark, you know, I had 8.5 years in the Air Force. It's the first time I stood alongside an officer instead of in front of him. So it was really remarkable, and I was wondering if you could get a picture of that, maybe for the newspaper, and promote this. And I'd like to be on the plank. Of course, I haven't got much time left, folks. I just turned 83 today. I don't want no compliments. I haven't got much time left, but I sure like to. I'm really impressed. And I don't have a business card, but I've got some pens with my business card, I call them, no address, no phone number. And I like to give them to them. And greatest thing I heard, folks. And I don't know how we get a hold of Sharon. I know she's in Anchorage, but I think she should be the #1 person and possibly cut the ribbon, folks. Thank you.
Thank you. What an honor to have you here today, sir. Next.
Linda Paquette, outside city limits. Bob Valdetta and I actually lived very near each other when we were, he'd already moved, but when I was little, he was not that far away, which is kind of funny. So, I really worry about you selling this asset across the street for a couple of reasons. Mainly because you need to do something with this building. Either tear it down and rebuild it, or, I don't know, and I don't know where all of this fits into the strategic plan, but, and then I heard that the Big Bay Beginnings building deal fell through, and so maybe we should be thinking about the child care in that building. I don't know. I just, as a citizen of the area, I mean, I'm not in the city, but as a citizen of the area, it seems like that building, kitty corner from this building, is an asset you don't want to lose. And it would be short-sighted to just do it to make some money. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Councilmember Towsley, thank you.
Susie Towsley, still inside city limits. I have a couple things to say, so I made a note on a postcard in my purse. I am the local advocate and program manager for the Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Program that is now part of the Prevention Coalition. Sadly, the state of Alaska experiences the highest rates of both sexual assault and domestic violence in the country. We continue to work hard to serve people who have experienced or are experiencing either of those through our program. Our crisis line is available 24/7 at 362-1843, so I always like to get that out there and put a plug in for that. Next month is Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Month, and I'll pass out these masks to y'all if you're, wanting to wear them. And I'm coordinating with the city clerk to bring forward a proclamation for that. Thank you to the city clerk's office for being responsive and wonderful and easy to work with and professional. A lot of the ways that domestic violence manifests itself you might not think about if you haven't ever experienced it. There can be control, there can be financial issues, but one of the barriers that had existed in Seward over the summer was the lack of a DMV. And that has been resolved, and I'm really very grateful for that. And I also would like to send a huge thanks to the employee that's handling it. She's doing a great job. She's dealing with, it's a big job with a lot of details, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of layers, and frustrated people that are trying to get a hold of her to get some stuff done. So huge kudos to her for doing a great job with that. I plugged my program. Let's see. Taking off my work hat, putting on my proud Army mom hat. I think this is a fantastic program. I think that y'all should talk with Bob, maybe get with the Port and Commerce Advisory Board. We have an Army veteran as our harbor master as well, Ron Regis, and also the American Legion is very involved here locally. So I'm excited about that. Every time that anything comes to town that we can tour, we all take our kids and line up and go check it out. So this sounds wonderful. So look forward to getting that up and going. And again, thank you for all that you guys do. Much appreciated. Thanks.
Is anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Alan Nickel, outside the city limits. I'm up here this evening as an Army and an Air Force veteran, and the very proud father of a Navy submariner, machinist mate. And I just thought that this was, you know, pretty cool. And I guess as they were giving their presentation, what really jumped into my mind was being in San Diego, if you've ever been down, you know, along the water, and I think this, you know, very well could be something that could be enjoyed the same way. So, pretty neat presentation, and I hope it gets some traction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none, next on the agenda is council and administration comments in response to citizen comments. I'll start off with administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One item that I wanted to expand upon is the definition or the lack thereof of shovel-ready projects. That's one thing that we're continuing to explore as the infrastructure bills move through. We don't have a clear definition of if it means, yes, a project is ready to put a shovel on the ground. We've heard that that may not be the case. It can be, it has to, projects definitely have to be more than a concept. There actually has to have been some planning into it and some funds expended, but may not have to be fully shovel ready. But we're continuing to wait for guidelines to be written regarding the definition. And then the other item is I wanted to thank you for your attention and detail and of all the electric projects that are going on. It is a lot of money. It's a big project, but very, very necessary, and I thank you as a council for taking it on, and you know, a decision that's going to affect for the next 30, 40 years, and so thank you.
I'll start with Councilmember Cascarano.
I'd like to say happy birthday, Bob. It's such an honor and a pleasure to have you here in Chambers, and thank you for all your service to the city of Seward. I'd also like to say thank you to Public Works for when I woke up at 4 a.m. to the sound of thunder and lightning, and then heard, like, I was like, where's my ark? I thought for sure I was gonna have to like go get in a boat or something. Luckily it stopped soon. But then my following thought was, it's okay, Doug's got it all under control. So that was a really good feeling because I do live close to the waterfall. I mean, I'm high enough elevation, but, and thank you to the electric department for all your hard work. I mean, a lot of work, like 450 page packet is huge. So thank you for all your work, and thank you to all the citizens that have come and spoke, and thank you to everyone. It's just, it's really good feeling of serving right now, and I'm really excited for all that we have done and that we are doing and that we will be doing together. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeMoss.
I would like to say congrats to our new library director, Bailey, for getting the library fully staffed. I think that's great to hear. I'm also really excited about some of the new hires. We filled a few officer positions, and so I feel good about that. Congratulations to Erin, Lemus, and Laura on the PACAB, and thank you for your service. Thank you so much to administration for following through with Murkowski on the J1 visa issue. That's a big deal and will be a big deal this summer if it's an issue again. So I really appreciate you guys following through on that. And then just big thanks to Rob. I think Seward is super lucky to have you right now, and it's unfortunate that there was so much work that was deferred and, you know, neglected, and I appreciate you stepping up and, you know, being aggressive and letting us know that it has to be done. And so I look forward to working together with you on that. And that's all.
Councilmember Osenga?
I'd like to say, start off with thank you to Aaron Loomis and Laura Schneider for their service. Congratulations to our history teacher of the year, Liljemark. Thank you to this council. I mean, we've worked together. It's been a really good experience, and thank you to administration for all the hard work that you guys are doing. Please be COVID conscious, and Jackie Wild, may your future be bright.
Yes. First, I'd like to say thank you, Jackie, for all your hard work, and wish you the best in your endeavors from here on out. Also, Bob Beldetta, happy birthday again. I already sent a card for the Pioneers, so I knew you had a birthday. And then I want to thank Aaron and Laura for their hard work. And somebody said that the child care thing didn't go through with the building. Is that what Linda said? That they didn't get the building?
I think the sale of that building, regardless, take the child care out of it, the sale of that building is what was mentioned. But go ahead.
Oh, okay, never mind. I hadn't heard that. That's why I was hoping it wasn't true. Okay, and I want to thank administration and also Rob for all your hard work and the call back that I got right away telling me about the power outage. And to the council, thank you, administration. And to Brenda for all her hard work for 454 pages.
Councilmember McClure?
Oh, okay, so echoing once again all the thanks and this and that, I hate to see people leave commissions, but it's fun to see people come on, and I want to congratulate and welcome Bob Barnwell, my neighbor, to the aquaculture board. He came highly recommended by other members of the board, and this is our way of participating in something greater than just Seward. It's a good thing to see what has been happening in the city lately and with the council and administration. Think about what we've done. I mean, we're moving ahead finally with electrical infrastructure. We've got Chugachmute getting ready to build we've approved this great thing. There's a lot going on, and we've got a forward-thinking group here, and it's really good to be part of it. I also want to remind you there is an election coming up, and it's coming real soon, and there's some important city stuff on it, but there's also our borough assembly representative is up for election, and there are 2 people there, so you can look at that. People outside the city limits, that's the only thing you have. But within the city, we've got council members and the approval of the waste contract. So be sure you're aware of that, and I think early voting begins pretty soon. And also, candidates night is next Monday night, and I believe it's just virtual. They will be here, but it'll be on all the things, so watch for that. Also, be COVID conscious. We've had, what did I just read, 12 cases today. It doesn't seem to be going down. My opinion is pretty soon everybody will have had it at least, and the shots have had it, but you still have to be careful, and it's warranted to wear masks when you feel it's appropriate, and get the shots if you feel it's appropriate. And also, the flu shots are available, and that's an easy thing out at Safeway. So all of that, that's all I got.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you to Robert White and Robert Barnwell for stepping up to represent our city. Bob, you actually brought me here 9 years ago, and I tried to tip you, and you said, no, you're going to need that money. So that was my story with you, and thank you for bringing me here. That was always an experience. I always tell people that taking the bus here is a really good experience to meet people and get here, and it's your first, glimpse of Seward. So thank you for coming and providing comment tonight. I want to thank Laura Schneider, a really dear friend and colleague who has done and given so much of her time and her energy to many great projects, and just an amazing person. And I know that being burnt out and working a lot, that is what we do here, and we do need to care for ourselves. I was told by a dear friend, I think, you always think of being on the aircraft, make sure your mask is on before you can help somebody else. If you can't take care of yourself, it's hard to take care and help your community. And thank you to Aaron Lemus as well. The election is coming up. Alaska Waste is presenting information on their about their contracts. I do not have that specific information, but you can call me and I will find out for you if you need to know. The election is coming up, so please get out there and vote. That's a right that many people have fought for a long time, to have that right. And thank you to administration for all your hard work. It's not easy. And to communicate with all of us recently and to keep us informed. I really appreciate the thoughts from the city manager once a week before the meeting. Those are very helpful to see what's going on, kind of give us an update on what's happening. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a few comments. Seward Community Foundation celebrated a milestone. Gleisner was there, and also Councilmember McClure. They have almost $4 million in their endowment funds, and they've reached a milestone of $1 million back into the community. So it was great to see all the clubs that they've, nonprofit organizations that they've contributed to. They're such a key part of our community. I want to repeat that domestic violence phone number. Make sure I got it right and repeat it again, 907-362-1843. I got a thumbs up on that, and that's another organization that's been doing great work and is much needed in Seward. So it's nice to hear that they're under a different umbrella and keeping things moving forward, so that's fantastic. Ann Hatch, I just want to say to Ann Hatch's family that just had the memorial this last weekend that she has missed, and it was nice that there were lots of people involved in that. I want to disclose, I will be putting this, with the election we fill out our new disclosure forms, but just to be in front of that, I do have a daughter that's now working at the library, but that will be included on my disclosure forms for this year. But I wanted to throw that out there, that I'm not hiding anything. She's a part-time temporary worker at the library. Port and Commerce Advisory Board is such a workhorse board for the community, and it can be members both inside and outside city limits. So if you want to dip your toe in civic involvement, PACCAV's a great one. It meets during the middle of the day, so you're not arbitrating your evenings, and it's really done a lot of work and provides a lot of good input to council over the years. And again, it's just great to see that even after council members are no longer serving, that they're still involved in their communities. It's great to have 2 council members here. And if everyone will indulge me, I think we should sing happy birthday to Bob. So I'll kick it off, even though I have the worst voice.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you.
And with that, I will close the meeting.